All right, the last section of this tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to create upgrades. So what I'd like to have happen is that my score will dictate whether or not I'm allowed to create a new tower, and then likewise, whether I can upgrade that tower to a more powerful one. So to begin with, I'm going to start with making it that I have to have a certain number of points in order to create a new tower object. So for example, I'm going to say that this one's going to require 10 points. So if my score is larger than 9, then I'm actually allowed to create this drag object, and I should actually subtract the 10 points. So minus 10 relative. There we go. So now I actually have to have enough points in order for this to work. Now at the moment I don't have any score, so I'll never be able to place a tower, which is a problem. I should create a controller object that actually gives me some points to begin with. So I'm going to make it that when the game first starts, I'm going to have some amount of score. Let me start with 40. I should place that in the room, otherwise it will do nothing. Try running that. All right, so I've got 40 points. There you go, 30, 20, 10, 0, and I can't place any more. Good. I probably should make it so that when I destroy enemies, I should get some amount of score as well. So right after I destroy this enemy, I'm going to give myself some score back, maybe 5 relative. And the way you set this balance between how much it costs for towers and how much enemies are worth is how you make the game interesting. Okay, so that's one kind of thing I need to do for a score. Now what about creating an upgraded tower? So I'm going to create another tower where when I right-click on a tower I've got, if I have 20 points, it'll create a better tower. So I'm going to create a new sprite for this. Let's see. Sure, a fire. So that'll be my fire sprite. And it'll actually be very much like this tower. So rather than doing all the tower stuff again, I'm just going to duplicate it. And that creates another object with all the same events. I want the fire sprite. I'm going to call this upgrade. And instead of just doing 30 steps, I'll do 15, so it fires twice as fast. Quick and easy way to do an upgrade. Other things you could do, you can make it so that the distance is further away. You could make it so it fires different bullets, which do more damage, things like that. So after this, I need to create another enemy and another tower. Next, now that I have an upgraded tower, I should make it so that when I right-click on an actual tower, it creates it. So right now I have these two events. What I need is also a right press, so that when I use the right mouse button, it'll try and do this. So similar to how I did the button object, where I check to see if my score is high enough, I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to say if it's larger than 19, then I'm going to change this tower into this other tower. So I need to go from myself to the upgraded tower. And since I am doing the alarm events and the create event, I need to make sure that I say yes here. And I also need to make sure I subtract a certain amount of score. Minus 20 relative. There we go. So if I run this, I'll create a tower and upgrade it. Oh, I forgot to center my fire sprite, so let me do that real quick. That's why it jumped, is because the centers were in different spots. All right, so those are upgrades. I should make it that these towers all fire at multiple enemies, because that's one of the things I need to do, is have multiple enemies in this game. So I'm going to create a sprite and an object for this. So here's my new ghost. It's going to be similar to the first one, so let me just duplicate enemy 1, enemy 2, _0. I think I'm going to make this guy worth 10 points, or make it 10 hits, and also make him worth 10 points. And then finally, if I leave this draw event the way it is, it's going to draw whatever this thing is. So even if I change this sprite here, because I'm drawing the default ghost here, I would never see the blue ghost. It would actually be the blue ghost. It actually is the correct object. It just is drawing the wrong thing because of this. So I need to actually switch this in the draw event. Now at the moment my towers only fire at enemy ones. So if I look in the alarm event here, it's looking at enemy 1. What I need it to do is actually fire at every enemy. The simple way to do this is actually to take enemy 2 and set its parent to enemy 1. And now it'll actually fire at all the different enemies. So if oh, you know what? I don't have an enemy 2 in the room yet. Let me do that real quick. So in wave 1, I'm going to change this to enemy 2. So now when I start this wave, so they're firing at enemy 1s, and they are actually firing at enemy 2. Otherwise, they wouldn't do that. And that's an easy way to make it so it'll fire at all enemies, is to just make all your other enemies children of the first one. All right, finally we need to finish this. So how do I know when the game is over and I've won? I mean, we can make a base that is destroyed, but we need to be able to win. And the way we do that is we actually create an object. I'm going to call this endgame, which is checking to see if I've destroyed all the enemies. So every stack, I'm checking to see if the number of enemy 1s, the parent, is equal to 0. And if it is, for now I'm just going to put in you win and end the game. And I want to create this object at the very end of the very last wave. Otherwise, it would end the game between waves because I'll have destroyed all the enemies. So besides creating the last enemy, I'm also going to create this end game object. Okay, let's see how this works. These bears are kind of terrible shots, aren't they? There we go, wave 2. I'm afraid my base might lose some health on this particular wave. Uh-oh, maybe not. There we go. And as soon as the last one came out, I won. All right, so that shows upgrades, how to fire at multiple enemies without having to do an if statement for every single different kind of enemy, and how to end your game.